EastEnders Nicola Mitchell, Laura Doddington, is about to seriously regret letting the evil Eddie Knight, Christopher Fairbank, back into her family's lives this week. The racist murderer made a shock reappearance in the BBC soap earlier this month when he revealed he was dying, and is getting an early release from prison as a result. When Eddie first tried to reach out to his estranged son George Knight, Colin Salmon, his partner Nicola desperately tried to keep it from George to protect him. However, after Nicola later discovered her local nightclub Harry's Barn is in dire financial trouble, she accepted a bribe from Eddie to let him move into her basement flat in return for cash to save her business. George is currently in the dark about their secret arrangement, but should the truth come out, he would be devastated, given he disowned his father after it was revealed Eddie killed George's birth father in a racially motivated attack when the former Queen Vic landlord was still a child. The revelation came after George also learned about how Eddie and his wife Gloria adopted him through an illegal process called baby farming back in the 1950s. As Eddie seeks to get his feet back under the table with George next week, he has Nicola right where he wants her and begins to use her in his twisted games. On Monday, the Knights and the Mitchells gather for the Ghanaian naming ceremony of Nicola and George's newborn daughter Ivy, but Nicola is distracted by her secret meeting with Eddie's prison officer at number 1. Nicola eventually realizes she must come clean to George that Eddie is moving into the basement flat, telling him it is the right thing to do. However, she fails to reveal her agreement with Eddie. With George initially pushing back on the plan, Nicola manages to convince him. But when Eddie arrives in the middle of Ivy's naming ceremony, the rest of the family has a lot to say about it. While Nicola believes she has kept to her side of the bargain, during a moment alone with Eddie, he tells her that she won't get his money unless he's allowed to live upstairs with the family in the main house. Nicola is left flailing, so she heads to Harry's Barn to assess the true extent of her financial predicament to see if she needs to bow to Eddie's demands. However, cash flow is looking bleak, and while Nicola's son Harry Mitchell, Elijah Holloway, begs his mum to renege on the deal after his heart-to-heart with his girlfriend and Eddie's granddaughter Gina Knight, Francesca Henry, she's forced to tell him that she has to go along with Eddie to stop the club from going under. With Nicola between a rock and a hard place, will she risk her entire relationship with George for the sake of Eddie's cash? Or could she come up with a plan of her own to get rid of Eddie once and for all? The rain hammered against the windows of number 31 as Nicola paced the living room, her hands trembling around a cold mug of tea. Every creak of the floorboards made her jump. Every passing car sent panic racing through her chest. Because Eddie was back. And this time he wasn't hiding in the shadows in EastEnders. Eddie had always been the kind of man who thrived on fear. Calm voice. Dead eyes. A smile that never reached his face. The kind of killer who made people feel trapped long before he ever lifted a hand. Nicola knew exactly what he was capable of. She'd spent months trying to convince herself the nightmare was over. After Eddie disappeared following the warehouse fire, Walford slowly returned to normal. The market traders gossiped again. The Queen Vic filled with laughter. Even the square's endless drama seemed comforting compared to the terror Eddie brought with him. But evil like Eddie's never stayed buried. Nicola first spotted him 2 days earlier. Just a glimpse. A dark coat across Bridge Street. At first she thought she was imagining things. Stress. Guilt. Fear. But then she saw him again outside the tube station, standing perfectly still as crowds moved around him watching her. That same icy stare. And tonight, he finally made his move. The knock at the door came just after 10 p.m. 3 slow taps. Nicola froze. Another knock. She moved cautiously toward the hallway, every instinct screaming at her not to open the door. Through the frosted glass, she could barely make out a figure standing outside. Then came his voice. Nicola, we need to talk. Her blood turned to ice. Eddie, she stumbled backward, nearly dropping the mug as panic surged through her body. She reached for her phone with shaking hands, but before she could dial anyone, another voice cut through the silence. Don't bother calling the police. Nicola's breath caught. They can't protect you. The front door handle slowly rattled. Locked. Thank God. You know, Eddie continued calmly, I always liked you. Smarter than the others. Stronger too. Nicola pressed herself against the wall, fighting tears. What do you want? A low chuckle came from outside. You already know. And she did. Months ago, Nicola had discovered the truth about what Eddie had done. The bodies. The lies. The cover-ups. She had kept quiet out of fear, But Eddie knew she could still destroy him if she spoke, which meant she was dangerous, and dangerous people didn't survive around Eddie. The letterbox suddenly snapped open, making Nicola scream. An envelope slid across the floorboards. Then silence. After several terrifying seconds, Nicola crept forward and picked it up. Inside was a single photograph, her taken earlier that morning outside the cafe. On the back, for chilling words were written in black ink. "I'm closer than ever." Nicola broke down instantly. Meanwhile, across Albert Square, nobody realized the danger she was in. At EastEnders' fan-favorite pub, the Vic, music blasted while locals laughed over drinks. Linda served pints. George argued with Phil near the bar. Life carried on as normal. But Nicola's world was collapsing. She finally managed to call someone. "Jack." "Nicola? Slow down, I can't understand you." "He's here," she whispered desperately. "Eddie's here." The line went silent. Jack's voice hardened instantly. "Lock the doors. I'm coming now." But Eddie was already 10 steps ahead. Outside the house, hidden in darkness, he watched Nicola through the upstairs window. Calm, patient, like a predator studying trapped prey. He didn't need to rush. Fear was more powerful when it spread slowly. A car screeched into the square minutes later as Jack arrived. He burst through the gate and rushed to Nicola's front door. But Eddie was gone. Or so they thought. Jack searched the street while Nicola sat shaking on the sofa, clutching the photograph. "He was here," she insisted. "He spoke to me." "I believe you," Jack said firmly, but even he looked unsettled because Eddie had vanished without a trace again. Then came the final twist. As Jack comforted Nicola, her phone buzzed in her hand. Unknown number, heart pounding. She opened the message. Attached was a live photo. Jack standing inside her living room, taken from outside the window. Nicola gasped in horror and looked toward the curtains. Someone was watching them right now. Another message appeared seconds later. "You can hide behind Jack all you want, but you belong to me now." The episode ended with Nicola pulling back the curtain, only to see Eddie standing across the square beneath the flickering streetlight, smiling before disappearing into the darkness once again. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to EastEnders Spoilers Official.